When I first found out I was pregnant, I felt like the luckiest woman alive. My name is Emily Carter, and for most of my adult life, I dreamed of being a mother. My husband, David, and I had been married for 3 years, and even though our life wasn't perfect, we were happy, or at least, I thought we were. We lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Portland, Oregon, surrounded by maple trees and friendly neighbors who waved from their porches. David worked as an architect, and I taught art classes at a local community center. The day I told David the news, he smiled, a small, hesitant smile that I tried not to overanalyze. "Wow, that's amazing," he said. His words sounded right, but something in his voice didn't. I brushed it off as shock. We'd been trying for months, and maybe the reality just hadn't sunk in yet. As the months passed, I threw myself into preparing for motherhood. I painted the nursery in soft shades of cream and yellow, picked out tiny clothes, and read every book about babies I could find. David helped at first. He assembled the crib and went to doctor appointments, but as my belly grew, he seemed to shrink away emotionally. He stayed later at work, stopped talking about baby names, and when I asked if everything was okay, he'd say, "Just tired, Em." That's all. By my 8th month, he was barely home. Sometimes, he'd sleep in the guest room, claiming he didn't want to disturb me when I woke up during the night. I told myself not to worry. People handled stress differently. Maybe he was just scared of becoming a father. The night I went into labor, everything happened fast. My contractions hit before dawn, and by the time we got to the hospital, I could barely breathe through the pain. David held my hand through most of it, quiet and tense. When our son, Noah, finally entered the world, I expected to see joy in David's eyes. But instead, I saw something I couldn't name, something closer to sorrow. He kissed my forehead and whispered, "You did great." But within an hour, as nurses cleaned the baby and my mother arrived, David said he needed to step out for a bit. He didn't come back that night. When I woke up the next morning, I thought maybe he'd gone home to rest. But when I called his phone, it went straight to voicemail. My mom told me to focus on Noah, that maybe David was overwhelmed. But deep down, I knew something was terribly wrong. When I was discharged from the hospital 3 days later, I came home to a house that suddenly felt empty. Half of David's clothes were gone. So were some of his personal things, his laptop, his favorite coffee mug, his watch. He'd left a note on the kitchen counter. Greater than, "Emily, I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore. Please don't look for me. You'll be an amazing mother. David." I dropped the paper, my knees buckling as I clutched Noah against my chest. My mother ran to me, but I couldn't even speak. The man I loved, the man I thought I'd share every milestone with, had vanished without explanation, right after our son was born. The first few weeks were brutal. Between sleepless nights, feedings, and postpartum pain, I felt like I was falling apart. I'd stare at Noah's tiny face and feel this mix of fierce love and unbearable grief. My mind was full of questions. Was it me? Did I do something wrong? Was he having an affair? My friend Rachel, who'd known David since college, came over one afternoon with groceries. "Emily, maybe he's going through something mental," she said gently. "Some men panic when responsibility hits. It doesn't excuse it, but it might explain it." I nodded, though I didn't believe it. David wasn't weak. He was the steady one, the calm one. Or so I thought. A month passed before I heard from him again. A letter arrived in the mail with no return address. My hands trembled as I opened it. "Greater than, Emily, you deserve the truth. I found out something a few months ago that broke me. I went to a doctor for a checkup, and they told me something I never expected: I can't have children. Ever. When you told me you were pregnant, I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to accuse you or ruin what we had, but I couldn't live with the doubt. I had to walk away before I said something cruel. I'm sorry. David." The letter fell from my hands. My heart felt like it was being ripped in two. He thought Noah wasn't his. The man who had held my hand through the hardest moments of my life believed I'd betrayed him. I sobbed for hours. My mother tried to comfort me, but the pain was too deep. I knew the truth. I had never cheated. Noah was David's child. The doctor must have been wrong. But how could I prove it? I called every number I had for David, emailed him, even reached out to his old office. No reply. Weeks turned into months, and I learned to live without him. My days revolved around Noah, feeding, changing, soothing, and watching him grow. He was my light in a world that had gone dark. When Noah was 6 months old, I decided to get a DNA test, not for me, but for David. If he ever came back, I wanted proof. The results arrived in a plain white envelope. I opened it with shaking hands. The report said, clear as day, probability of paternity, 99.99%. David was Noah's father. I felt both vindicated and heartbroken. If only he'd trusted me. If only he'd talked to me before running away. A year later, I was finally finding peace. I'd started teaching again, and Noah was walking. Life was quieter, simpler. Then one morning, while dropping Noah off at daycare, I turned around and froze. David was standing across the parking lot, thinner, older looking, holding a bouquet of lilies, my favorite flowers. We just stared at each other. My heart raced. I didn't know whether to scream or run into his arms. Emily, he said softly, walking closer. I know I don't deserve to be here. I couldn't speak. I found out the truth, he continued, tears in his eyes. I got a second opinion. The first doctor made a mistake. I can have kids. And I took a test. I had my DNA compared to Noah's. He's mine. I was wrong about everything. The world around me went silent. All the nights I'd cried alone, all the moments I'd prayed for answers, it all came flooding back. Do you have any idea what you did to me? I whispered. He nodded, shame written all over his face. I do. I was scared. I let fear and pride destroy everything. But I'm here to make it right, if you'll let me. For a long time, I said nothing. Then I looked at Noah, who was playing with a small toy car, and I realized what forgiveness could mean, for him. I don't know if we can go back, I said. But maybe we can start over. Slowly, David nodded, tears streaming down his face. That's all I'm asking. We began talking again, cautiously, like two people learning to breathe after nearly drowning. It wasn't easy, trust takes time to rebuild, but I could see he was trying. He came to Noah's daycare events, helped with bedtime routines, and went to therapy to work on his fears. Months passed, and though our marriage wasn't what it once was, something new grew in its place, something honest. One night, as we sat on the porch watching Noah chase fireflies, David turned to me and said, I'll spend the rest of my life making up for the day I walked away. I looked at him, at our son's laughter echoing across the yard, and said, then let's make the rest of it count. And in that quiet moment, I realized forgiveness didn't mean forgetting, it meant choosing love, even when it had been broken. Sometimes, life gives you second chances, not to fix what's gone, but to build something better from what's left.